Hello again, thank you for joining me for another video. So today's video I am going to talk about the transcendent experience and how to integrate it more comfortably into your everyday life so that it isn't just a one-off and it isn't something that becomes almost an instigator of a bit of an existential crisis or depression or any of those kinds of things. Sometimes we can really experience, some people will seek these out, but if it's just come to you seemingly out of the blue, it can be a bit jarring. And there's a lot of stories we have in our culture, and so it's important to really take it into consideration. What is the transcendent experience you've had? How can you honor it? How can it become something useful in your life? So I'm going to give you 5 tips on how to integrate the transcendent experience so that it does not cause that dark night of the soul experience or something that makes the mundane, ordinary reality that we live in somehow less abundant and beautiful in the ways that it can be. So the very first tip I will give you is do not gaslight yourself. I think we all kind of come into a questioning when we have a transcendent experience. We're not sure, especially if we weren't seeking it, where did it come from out of the blue? And so it's really easy to just use what is in front of you as a way to almost talk yourself out of its importance and meaning and significance. And I think the transcendent experience, that experience of being outside of time and space, of something almost magical and larger, being connected into this whole field of the cosmos, of the divine, feeling a sense of encompassing love out of nowhere. Those are some of the states of transcendence where you can just really get out of your own kind of localized experience into a conscious state and even a physical sense of bliss, of ecstasy, of feeling like God is everywhere and you are part of it and fully encompassed in it. The transcendent experience is quite profound, and so don't gaslight yourself out of having fundamentally interacted with something magnificent. Don't tell yourself it was just your imagination, as if imagination is something to be scoffed at, as if imagination doesn't fuel everything, right? So imagination is in itself a miracle and miraculous if you actually stop and contemplate what's happening up in our minds while we imagine things. So don't gaslight yourself into thinking that it was meaningless or that there's something wrong with you or that it doesn't change anything. It will slowly over time, if you allow it to, begin to change your perceptions and how you perceive the world and how you perceive your own self in this world. So that's the first tip. The second tip I'm going to give you is to honor it, to record what has happened. And this will help to really solidify that it was a bona fide transcendent experience. You might come back years later and need to call on that. If you've stepped back into some, harder territories, if you've gotten really dense and really patterned into your way of living, and you need to break out of it, that transcendent experience might be the lifeline that you need. So find a way to honor it by some expressive form, like write a poem about it and really recall the memory fully of the transcendent experience as much as you can and attempt to interpret that in some form of either a visual art like painting or poetry or song or something that you can come back to later and remember that that was a real experience that you had and have honored it, that it meant something to you. I ended up getting a tattoo after one of my transcendent experiences, and the image I had in my head was like this goddess type female coming up out of a lotus flower, and it was really stunning in my mind, and it represented the experience I had had. And this was at a time when I had no interactions whatsoever in terms of spirituality on anything that would be considered a goddess. So, I had been exposed to some maybe Greek art, so some of those more goddessy type things, but I certainly didn't know anything about some like Lakshmi or any of the Hindu goddesses, Kali, any of those, nothing in my frame of reference to call those. But when I've seen later on images now of Hindu goddesses, it was Lakshmi that I was envisioning and attempted to have tattooed on my arm. It was a free tattoo with somebody who didn't know what they were doing, but I still honored it. And I've come back later, and it's really helped me a few times. And I was like, was that real, or was it all just in my mind? When the everyday life really gets full steam ahead and that's all that you're really enmeshed in, you're just meeting your basic needs and getting through, right, the grind, those transcendent experiences can seem so far away and so ineffectual on making life better, that I've been really grateful that I did, crappy tattoo as it is, have it as a reminder of that experience. And so then I know for sure inside that I did have it, even when I can't recall it in this present time. So find something to do, find some way to honor it, be it poetry or song or a painting, some expression. Capture that emotion and the magnitude as much as you can, even writing it down if it was just as a journal entry or something to that effect. So your future self will thank you for doing that, I promise. Okay, number 3, use it as a map. So the transcendent experience is like a neurological break in this patterning that we have of our automatic pilot that we get in. And so you can use it as a map and attempt to alter your own patterns and habits and bring it into alignment so that you can experience more of that state of bliss and contentment and larger connection in to the magnitude of the cosmos, of our own divine nature, of all of those subtle energy streams that we are able to tap into as needed to calm our own nervous system and to experience that sense of inspiration and joy that comes with being a spiritual being and a creative being. Right? So use it as a map. What did it feel like? Where did it feel good? Try to really contemplate what that was telling your nervous system. Where did your nervous system tap into it? Were you in a particular state of mind? Did something happen prior to it? Were you in a particular geography? And maybe that helped to trigger it. Try to understand the things that set you up to be able to experience that. That isn't to say that you're necessarily going to be recreating it, but those are markers and tools to point you in the direction of what your body was looking for when your soul lined up in that moment of transcendence. Okay, and then number 4, be careful who you tell. And this one is a little tough because when you have a transcendent experience, I think especially in our modern culture, we're very busy, we're very focused on like family and goals and kind of that hype of success, right? And so sometimes if you talk to someone who isn't in the mind frame to perceive a transcendent experience or the importance of a transcendent experience, you might be shooting yourself in the foot a little bit and taking yourself out of alignment with their worldview to the point where it's uncomfortable for both of you. So we've all had the kind of experience of just not being able to relate to someone and kind of pulling away from them because we can't relate. And this can also happen, even though it's such a positive experience, this can also cause someone to kind of just pull away a little bit simply because they can't relate. And that feels really uncomfortable. It does not feel good to have the experience that for most people who have that transcendent state experience, it is so profound. It is like, this is why I'm alive. It is so moving to be in tune with your own soul, and your soul connected into the larger sense of life beyond time and space. It is there aren't real words to describe it very well, to be honest with you. And so translating that to somebody else who isn't even interested can be really damaging, in a sense, for your need to honor yourself in that. You're at the developmental stage where you can tolerate that expanded consciousness into the grand cosmos and potential. And they might not be, which is totally fine. But be careful and kind of sense that out before you just spill your beans, because they might have some pretty harsh defense mechanisms against expanding into that conscious state, because they have other goals and other things that they're focused on. And so it's a bit of a balance, learning to honor that truth of yourself and knowing potential of being a creator being here in these physical bodies, kind of this mesh between consciousness and material, that marriage of integration that is really transcendence itself. And we are alive for it. So honor that, and also honor other people who are in their walk in a different state, because they're going to keep things running while you're able to experience this. We are a team, right? We get into this state. If they're keeping everything running, we don't necessarily want to just diminish the value of what they are doing as they are doing it, and their need to protect that. So hopefully that made sense. Just be careful who you talk to about it, so that you aren't disrupting somebody who is not in a space where they can perceive that, and they may get defensive, and then you could end up damaging relationships. So they're just in a different place than you. We don't need to judge that place, because it's all part of the grand scheme of how this realm especially operates. Okay, number 5. Let it be the fuel. Let it be the fuel for gratitude, and let it be the fuel for that gratitude to develop into compassion. Because compassion is something that really helps smooth human interactions. When we know that other people care about us, especially almost strangers, it helps to fuel the human family in a way where we're soft with each other when we need to be soft with each other. And even when we are in a corrective stance, it isn't perceived as a power over or a willful disregard for other people's feelings. So let it be this fuel of, oh my God, I am part of that transcendent experience. I am made of the same energy and the same beingness of that beautiful, transcendent, blissful state. It's amazing. And if you can hold that knowledge, it will create a sense of gratitude within you, where you didn't have to do anything really to be one with that. It is just tuning into it, and then it is available to you. And that experience can really be a fuel for gratitude. And once you're like, once you kind of catch into that bigger experience of being kind of called and folded into a larger, blissful, transcendent state, you're able to offer more compassion to others, because it's kind of the thing that we all want. Our souls really crave to feel, and to feel connected into. And from that, it's really easy to give abundantly a little more grace to others as well, because we're like fully engulfed in grace. I like to call it grace, the transcendent space. And then it's easier to offer that to others, a compassionate understanding of where they might be struggling, and remembering what it feels like to be in the struggle, and to have not experienced that deep connection with all life and that abundant field of love that is surrounding us at all times, and we're able to tap into. So let it be your fuel. Let it be the thing that you know helps connect us to each other, connect us to all life across time and space. And I hope this sits well with you. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave them below. If you have your own transcendent experience and you want to write it down, I am happy to hear them. They help fuel my faith and keep my compassion flowing, and I appreciate it very much. So thank you for being here with me, and I will see you again next time. Take care.